All right, we are recording the interview of William Nicholson. The interview is being conducted by David Morse from Wright State University's Veteran Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University's Veteran Military Center in Dayton, Ohio. It is 9:01 a.m. on the 28th of September, 2016. Let's start off with when and where you were born.
Right here in Dayton, Ohio on November 23rd, 1946.
Who are your parents?
My mother was Lois Burns Nicholson. My father was Francis B. Nicholson.
What were their occupations?
Let's see. Growing up with my parents, my mother worked 2 or 3 different jobs. She worked at McCall, she worked at Desi, and she worked out here at Wright Pat, doing collation. I think that she worked with machines that collated whatever it was. My dad worked at NCR's parts inspector for almost 30 years.
Wow. What did you do before you joined the military?
I was skipping school.
Skipping school. That's good. What school did you go to?
Well, I started out, my grade school was Franklin School in East Dayton. It's no longer there. Then I went to Wilbur Wright for 2 years, my 8th grade freshman year, and I went to Patterson Co-op for 1 year. And then I went to Colonel White for about, whatever it is, 6 months, 7 months. And then I quit and went in the service.
Okay. Yeah, I loved skipping school. That was like my specialty.
I went in the service. I didn't like, I'm sorry to say, at that time it was kind of an ethnic issue at Colonel White, and I couldn't mingle with those people out there. Myself and another friend of mine who ended up joining the Marines would go in one door, go out another door, and either go downtown to go to our old area in Wilbur Wright during the day. And my dad called me skipping school, so he would give me the privilege of making a decision, either quit skipping or go into service. And I said, sign me up. So that's what happened.
All right. So what branch did you end up serving?
I went to the Navy.
Navy, okay. What made you decide the Navy?
I don't know. I took that, maybe I guess at that time was the easiest way out. That wouldn't be as hard as the rest of them. I don't know. I've only weighed 130 pounds. I'm a skinny little fart. So I don't think I was physically fit to go in like the Army or the Marines. Air Force probably would have had no problem, but I wasn't thinking no matter which one service I went in, just went in the Navy.
How old were you when you joined the Navy?
17 years and 6 months or something like that.
Okay. So your parents had to sign a consent?
My dad had to sign it.
Okay. Yeah. So what year was this when you joined the Navy?
1964 in April.
April of 1964. Wow. What was your dad obviously was, helped you decide to go into the Navy. What was the rest of your family's feelings about you joining the military?
My mother and father had been divorced since 1960 or 61. I had 2 siblings, and one had left town with my mother, and my brother was in and out of jail type person.
Okay.
Nothing major, no felonies, a whole bunch of misdemeanor stuff.
No. Did any of your other siblings eventually join the service?
No.
No. Okay. So, talk to me about, I guess, boot camp. Is it boot camp in the Navy?
Basic training.
Basic training, okay.
It was at Great Lakes, Illinois. It went, basic training was really good. The only setback I had was I had problems with my teeth, and they sent me back about, I don't know, 4 weeks or something like that at basic training while they worked on my mouth before they put me back in another company. And I was up there from April until July, which was a long time for basic, but that's the only, I didn't have really any real problems with basic training.
My understanding for Navy basic training, you guys had to swim.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Did you train a lot for being on a boat? So you had to learn how to put out fires and all that.
I don't remember that much.
You don't remember that much?
Yeah.
What about any of your instructors? Did any of them come to mind?
Just I'm thinking about a little, I don't know whether the guy was Mexican or whether it was our chief petty officer for our company commander. I still have, well, I got a picture of my graduation, but it's in half. But I do have my basic training company book still at home.
Oh, really? Wow.
Nothing wrong with it.
So for basic training for you altogether was how long again?
I went in April, got out July.
Okay. Oh, that's not too bad. Even with the delay, that's not too bad. So then where did you go from there?
Home for 2 weeks and then back up there to Great Lakes for hospital corps school.
Okay. And that's because you were, what was your MOS?
Well, it was rated as a hospital corpsman.
Hospital corpsman, okay. And that's, so your training was, describe your training for me.
Learning how to do the basic first aid stuff and how to learn to give shots and like nurse stuff in a hospital and take people's blood pressures and so on and so forth and whatever and 2 weeks on a ward in the hospital depending on where they put you and learn how to take care of patients and things like that in the hospital. Using each other for guinea pigs, giving shots was a tour. It was something different. If you had a buddy or whatever, you got their shot and then you give them their shot back. Got to learn to do that.
Wow. Wow. How long was your training?
I was there the 28th of July until mid-December.
Okay.
It's like 16 weeks, I believe.
16 weeks, okay. That's not bad. Wow, you learned a lot in that amount of time.
Yep.
Wow. What happened after that? So where did you go?
I got the luxury of going down to the Pensacola Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, in the hospital and ward. They sent me down there the day after Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I had a really good tour down there. I met a lot of the other corpsmen, met a lot of the people. I met people that worked on the base, that were patients on the wards. Really had a lot of good things go on down there with the patients and with the other corpsmen and even with the nurses going out to the beach and stuff like that. And I was only 18 years old at the time, and it just so happens that some of the corpsmen that have been stationed there for a while were working as ID checkers or bouncers at the bars on the beach, and they knew who you were. On in. So we had a good time.
So that was your recreation?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So I worked all 3 shifts, as you would put it, at the hospital. And there's times we go out to the beach and the nurses would be out there and you could, frolic per se, but nothing any personal stuff with any of the nurses or anything down there. But if we worked 11 to 7 shift, we'd get off of work in the morning, our shift, and go down and eat breakfast, and then go out to the beach and stay till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, come back, go to bed. They'd wake us up around 9 so we could get showered, cleaned up, and go eat dinner. They go back on the floor at 11.
Mm. Wow. how was the food? I guess there. How was?
Oh, it's great. If you like seafood, they had a lot of that. And I don't think I know. I liked them guys. Oysters. Not oysters weren't my thing of. But like at night, if we were working 11 to 7 shift, they had to make chow for everybody that was working the third shift. So we were down there like say about 10 o'clock at night eating before we went on our shift on the floor. But the food was great. I never had a problem with the food.
No, that's good.
Like playing pool, and we even had a swimming pool on the base. People never used it that much because most of the time they went to the beach, which I can't tell you how far away it was from the hospital. But I got to be real good friends with a first class, I don't know if you call him a short patrol. He was one of the guys that's in charge of base security, and yeah, we did a lot of things together because he was on our floor. Because he had broke his leg or something like that before I got down there, and well, he took me out different places and showed me different kinds of food and things like that. It got to be really nice.
That's great. It's really good. How long were you stationed there at Pensacola, Florida?
I got there in December, and in September I got to go to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Okay. How was that?
Oh, that was fun. Learned how to be a Marine, all the stuff, and carried packs, and learned how to fire rifles, and how to crawl through mud, how to give shots again, how to take blood out of each other. It was basically Marine Corps training, you know, going in the gas chambers and so on and so forth. And they made sure the one time, though, we were supposed to go what they call the infiltration course, and they postponed it for one day. So when you got there the next day, crawling underneath the concertina wire, it was had rained, so underneath there was mud, and you had to crawl underneath there, not with full gear, but you had to have canteens on your back, you had to have a helmet, and you had to crawl through this way underneath and move the wire. So when everybody got through with that, they were looked like they'd been in the mud fight. First few buses that went back to the barracks was we lived in Quonset huts, and between the Quonset huts was the showers, and they had the heads and things. So the first guys back went in there, used up all the hot water cleaning their uniforms, and even had their rifles in there, cleaning all the mud and everything out. Of course, after they got done, they had to dry those off and tear them down and put them back together again. But yeah, that was the only drawback I can think of that going through going through that training down Swamp Lejeune, we called it, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
So, how was the training? I mean, aside from the combat aspect of it, the crawling through the mud and all that stuff, more specifically the medical training, how is that different than what you learned from your previous?
Well, down there you had to learn the first. It was already things we knew, but you had to be able to put it to use as immediate first aid training. Okay. You know, and they used to, you know, have fake arms, glossed, and so on and so forth. You had to learn how to do the field bandages, learn how to start IVs, take blood, and stuff like that, which we didn't learn how to do. When hospital course goal, we didn't have to learn how to take blood, but we had to learn how to take blood down there. Same aspect. You took blood out of this guy, then he took blood out of you. So if he missed your vein the first time, you better hit it a second time, or vice versa.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you had to use each other as guinea pigs.
Wow. All right. So, how long was that training?
8 weeks.
8 weeks. So you get through Swamp Lejeune. What happens next?
5 days travel time to get to Treasure Island in San Francisco to wait to get sent to Vietnam. You know, it's so funny. I think 8 of us met up in Chicago, come from different areas and all flew out to San Francisco at the same time. And all went downtown with our bags in a great big stretch taxi cab, I guess. So we went down to the bus station, put our sea bags in there, because we had all kinds of time before we had to report. And the one thing we ran into then, and that was in '65. No, that was still in '64. No, let me think about this. It was in '65. And we went in, did all that stuff, put our seat bags away and started to walk out. And as we were leaving the bus station, and we're all in dress greens, because as a lady corpsman, we could wear the dress greens. And there was a belligerent street person, looked like he had took a bath in who knows how long, and had the old t-shirts on, and white jeans slid up the side, and like sandals on, and I mean, roughy. And when we all got past him, so he reached out to grab the last guy. Just, I can't remember exactly where he grabbed him, but there was nothing we could do to restrain him, but just got away from him, so there was an altercation, because there was nothing we wanted to do in uniform, you know, get thrown in the burger stump for beating the crap out of a derelict in 1965 in November. That wasn't a pleasant thing, and I can't remember who it was he grabbed, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. So, let me understand this. You guys were outside of the base?
Oh yeah, we were downtown.
You were downtown, and so there was this guy that was protesting, essentially?
He wasn't protesting anything. He was just standing there just to, I don't know, harass people. I don't know, but or whatever.
And
he just grabbed one of them.
Grabbed the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, it's lucky that we didn't. Like I say, cause any conflict, because we don't know what would have happened to us. And there's only one guy out of all of us was 21 years old. The rest of us were under 21.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so you said you're in, again, what, San Francisco? And this is around 1965, right? So you are, what, around 19 years old at this point?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. And you're awaiting your deployment now to Vietnam. Yeah. At this point, have you made any contact with your family, and how?
Oh, I was, when I left the graduation from down there at Camp Lejeune, my father and my stepmom, my two stepbrothers came down and picked me up down there, and we drove back home, because I had 5 days travel time to get to DC, or get out to San Francisco.
Okay.
So I had 5 days between graduation and the time to check in out in San Francisco.
Okay.
Same way the rest of them did.
Nice. So you had the 5 days of in between to kind of say, or at least just talk to your family and stuff like that. They were aware of what was happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That you were getting sent off. What were their feelings about that?
I don't know how that affected them. Like I said, my mother and father were divorced. My mother had been back and forth in California and anything else after they got divorced. She moved to California and Texas and Arizona, back to Dayton and back out there. And I don't know, it might have been a little bit different for her. My dad, I don't think it bothered him that much. If he did, it wasn't an external showing of anything. But my mom met me at the airport when I was getting ready to leave to go. Well, my dad didn't want to go, or my stepmom didn't want to go either to meet my mom.
Right. I can understand that. that event that happened in San Francisco with the random belligerent guy. Was that the first altercation that you guys had experienced, or that you had experienced? Okay. So tell me now. You're at San Francisco. You're waiting, and now we're at the point where you're going to get deployed. Let's start there.
Well, we spent a few days in San Francisco. I don't know why, but we didn't leave the States until the 13th of November. And flew with commercial airlines to Seattle, Washington, and then Okinawa. And we had a couple days in Okinawa, and lucky me, got to go aboard a ship to go to Vietnam. It took 5 days. Me and I don't know how many other corpsmen and 5,000 Marines aboard a troop transport. And I turned 19. It was Thanksgiving, and I was aboard the ship on the way over there. And the good thing about that was, when I got to Vietnam, we went into Da Nang and did all the moving around and so on and so forth to figure out where we were going from there. And I flew down to July, that's where I ended up being stationed, and they had an outbreak of dysentery from the Thanksgiving dinner. So since I wasn't there, it didn't affect me. But that's where I ended at the platoon I was with. Was guarding July Air Base back then in 1965 in November, and that's where I started with them.
Okay. What were your initial thoughts or your first impressions of Vietnam when you arrived?
I didn't think a whole lot about it. We got off the plane, this is where you're going, and there was comments about these guys didn't have any live ammunition, which was just a ridiculous thing to say, just to put the fear of God in you, I guess, I don't know. And things like, it's just one of the weird things they used to say, that in here there's a lot of, in Vietnam there's a lot of STDs. And the worst one is having black syphilis. If you got black syphilis from some of these people, they put you out on an island in a talking cough and let you rot. It was that bad, but that was another scare tactic. But I never saw anybody with it or anything like that. But I started out the air base with the 2nd Platoon. My job was just I was in CP with the other corpsmen and the radioman and the gunnery sergeant and the lieutenant. I didn't have to guard. I didn't have to go out and sit in the bunkers and anything like that, foxholes at night, because I was the corpsman. That wasn't my duty to start out with.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about. Did you see any conflict?
Conflicts.
Conflicts. Yeah.
You mean firefights?
Right.
Many, many. When we went back to the battalion area, I was sent up on an outpost with 1 squad of Marines and a FO, which is Forward Artillery Observer. We were at the top of this hill called OP1 till 213, and we had sandbag bunkers around the edge of it, and like a tree house or whatever you want to call it, they made for the FO. I didn't see any conflicts up there because we didn't have anything. We were just sitting there during the day and during the night while this guy was doing his job watching the land and calling in artillery strikes and so on and so forth like that. I got shot at once. We could walk down the hill at night, of course, or over the daytime, because when you're walking and you go to trails, it's just trails where the water made it, and you just go down the trails. And at that time, I think the battalion was what we'd call 1 or 2 clicks from where we were at, so I'd always go back with somebody, and we were on our way back up there one time and got shot at, but we don't know where the fire came from. and nothing happened. But then in February, and I don't even know what that operation was, the first one I was out on, we were out on operation, and it was a search and destroy, big operation type thing. And I found out later in my life that it was actually in the Ashaw Valley, because we went up somewhere north of Dang. Because once you got aboard a helicopter, because the Marines flew in these old UH-34s, looked like, that's I call them, grasshoppers. They had the side door, and the pilot, co-pilot sat way up here, and everybody else just sat on the floor in the back. And we flew down this operation, and the same thing when we were out. We were up in the CP area with the two corpsmen, the radio, the actual radio men from the company radio men, and company commander and gunnery sergeant, and we had 2 VC walk through where we were at one night, and they were so close that one of the squad sergeants shot them both with a .45.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how close they were. So the next day, we went on to another area, and they put our platoon up on a hill that was like this. And around the hill, the French had been there a year before and put a big tunnel, or whatever you want to call it, dug all over it, about the middle of it. And I was standing up in the CP area with the company commander, or the platoon commander, the other corpsman, the radioman, a couple squad leaders, something, and Doc, you and the squad, Sergeant so-and-so squad's going to go down to this village and set up an ambush. Well, you could see the village, okay? So, you guys pack up your gear because you're going to go down here in a little while. Well, just before it started, the battalion had set up, I guess, a harass and something fire around the base of the hill in case we were to get charged on, okay? And their firing stopped. And then the VC, I guess, had already seen all this, and they just walked their rounds and started at the base of the hill here and just walked them right up the hill, right to where we were. Okay, the rest of the platoon is all strung out all around the hill, and I still to this day cannot figure out when everybody hollered incoming, everybody started running out towards where the tunnels was, and I don't know if I got knocked down. I don't remember, but when we got in that tunnel, or whatever you want to call it, and we just looked up after firing stopped, and here was the company radio man laying there. He caught a lot of shrapnel. The lieutenant got a piece of shrapnel on his foot. The other corpsman caught a piece of shrapnel on his tailbone. Well, he got medevaced out, and the radio men got medevaced out, but the platoon commander said, "No, that's nothing, I'll just stay." And it was an omen, per se, because we moved off that hill, we moved someplace else, and still got mortared. But we went into that village the next day. So inside that village was all intertwined tunnels and whatever you want to call it, and everything all through this. We had a multi-hour firefight because the VC were here and here and here. It might have been North Vietnamese, I don't even know. But we had firefights and everything like that, and I was standing next to where one of the guys was going to go down, crawl in the tunnel when all the shooting started. And at that time, I lost my directions on where my platoon was. So I went with somebody else. I was with another corpsman when we were getting shot at, and I jumped behind some foliage because this was a nasty firefight for a long time. And I was watching a couple of these guys, the guy that was firing the 3.5s, which we call bazookas type thing, and firing a Willie Peter round at a couple of VCs all running out of the village. and lighten them up. We got up and we're walking around the village, and I noticed that my leg was about 3 times the size it's supposed to have been. And I don't know what happened, but we came upon a couple NVAs or VCs and in one of the tunnels, and shot them, but didn't make no difference. They were already dead. We didn't know that. But then I got medevaced out because I couldn't walk on my leg. Well, during the firefight and everything that went on, the company, Lieutenant Sergeant, big black guy with big arms, got shot right in the arm. I don't know if he got shot with a 45 or anything, but it didn't really make that big of a hole because as big as he was. And one of the other squad leaders, a little short guy, stepped in a bungee pit. Now, you know what those are?
No.
Okay. It's a camouflage thing you can fall in, except it's got bamboo stakes sticking up all the way through it, and they put dungy on the end of it to, once you get punctured, it will cause you to get all kinds of nasty stuff happen to you. Well, the platoon commander just read me the riot act because I wasn't there to patch these 2 guys up. Well, I didn't know where they were at. I got, like I say, when this firefight started, everybody was going every which way. But they put me on light duty for 2 weeks because they didn't figure out why my leg swelled up. And after that, the platoon commander just laid on me heavy. I even had to sit out at night and do the 50-50 guard in a foxhole, which was not my job. And he didn't like that. Didn't like me after that. But you know, we were always going on all-night ambushes. Take a whole squad and go all-night ambushes and set up somewhere, and just never all-night ambush did we ever run into any VC going through our ambush. Now, wild boars and stuff like that, that's a different story. They, you know, but actual human beings, I don't ever remember running into a night ambush that we had to get in a firefight.
Just that that one that you were talking about the village. That, do you remember what that operation was called?
Which one? No, that was the first operation.
That was the first operation
I was on. I'm sure I've got it in my 201 file, but I can't remember what the name of it was.
Okay.
But that was in February 1966. I can tell you.
February 1966.
Yeah.
What about any other operations that you're involved in?
The second major operation I was on was Operation Texas, and that's the one. When I was up on that hill, 213, I was with the squad for a whole month. So we got to, you know, learn a lot about each other and so on. So our squad leader was a guy by the name of Sergeant Michael Delgado Jr. from Illinois. I don't know if he was Mexican, Spanish, American Indian, I don't know. Got to know him really well, and when we had mail call, he had a thing that had to have us having his 2nd or 3rd child, whatever it was, up on, when we were up on the hill around Christmas or New Year's of '65. And for some reason, I was back in the battalion area when the company went out on the start of Operation Texas. And then the next thing I knew was, come on, Doc, you're getting helicoptered out to the field. So I went out, the first time I ever got to fly on a Huey. I was flying some general's Huey that dropped us off, and there was a hedge line, small hedge line here, and we got dropped off over here, and everybody didn't know whether they wanted to go through that hedge line or not. We didn't know what was on the other side. We came down and went this way and went around it. On the other side, there was the rest of the companies was platoon, and one of my best friends was down there, but he had got shot and killed. And the problem about that was the company gunnery sergeant and that man and a whole bunch of the other guys on that operation were all due, they were short timers, were all due to come back to the States. They'd all went over there together. They were all due to shoot back. So that's the first thing that upset me, was the gunny never left battalion. Okay, but he sent the other guys out, as you call short timers, as much time as he had left out in this operation, where they all should have been back in secure area. Well, we went through this apple orchard and whatever. This operation Texas Light, there was two light companies on a side by side or whatever, just on a sweep. And we came out and we came up through a sugar cane field, and here's a rice paddy dike. That's a rice paddy. That's the village. The guys on the point were saying that they saw armed militia running around in this village. Well, it was to the time of day that it's not dark and it's not light. It's starting to get dark, you know, type thing, like 7 o'clock at night or whatever time it was. And they called back to the battalion to ask them to fire some rounds around the village to see if they got anything back, and the battalion commander refused to do that. Well, after that started, there was an opening of a massive 12-hour gun battle. From 7 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock the next morning, we were there. We could not go to the rear. We could not go forward. We couldn't bring in helicopters to take out the wounded and none of that stuff. We were pinned down, per se, for 12 hours. Some of the guys out there in the rice paddies, the other was right here by the dot, right back on the other side of the elevation and during the nighttime, one of the corpsmen in the other platoons right next to us got shot in the arm, bled to death. And the sergeant that I was talking about, Delgado, he was in charge of our 60 mortars. 60 mortars are like a little tripod like that, and looks like a bullet, but it's a bigger shell, about so far, and you just drop it in the tube. Okay. He was in charge of the 60 mortars, but he caught a mortar, incoming mortar, hit him right here in the shoulder. This took all this. And
is it
the
direct
next
hit?
Huh?
You said it was a direct hit into the shoulder?
Well, I'm laying there with the platoon sergeant, and I've got all this squad of guys or platoon of guys all along this thing, and I've got to worry about taking care of in case something happens, so I can't get up and go anywhere. We got up the next morning and we started to go over there, and I was checking out, you know, if they needed any help from me and so on and so forth. That's when I found out that Sergeant Delgado got killed, and Buenavida Donna was the other corpsman, and he got killed. And they were on the same aspect of William Wade, who lived in Berea, Ohio, got killed the day before. It's like March 21st, 22nd of 1966 on Operation Texas. And they all got killed, and that's when I kind of got a little resentment towards people in charge. That these guys were killed and they should have been back in the rear with the gear. And the ones in the rear with the gear were still there. These guys weren't. They all got killed in that same operation. And that's when I started resenting that fact that the company gunnery sergeant didn't go out, and the platoon or the battalion commander didn't do anything, because if they'd have fired out there, these guys who were out in the open and stuff might have had a chance to get back and get out of, you know, get behind some cover fire. So that that's one of the things that irritates me, that I have with my I don't know if that's the problem with my anger, but that's the problem with authority figures that I have, of somebody saying something and I don't believe. A little nap. They tell you to do it my way, you know, don't do as I do, do as I say, type thing. And you think it's right, you think it's wrong, you don't want to do it, but you got to do it anyway, and you're in the military. You know, with civilian life, I adapted that same policy. I had a problem with my boss when I worked at the county. But I've had little things like that, like why when I was up on that hill in February that I was, you know, it wasn't any bigger space than that when that mortar hit. And I was right there in the middle of it. Okay? And like I said, I don't remember if I got blown to the ground and then ran or what. Why I wasn't a casualty, whether it was just wounded or killed. I don't remember Schmidt, no, I think it was his name. He really looked like a piece of Swiss cheese. He had a lot of big holes in him. He caught, I think, most of the shrapnel. But you got 3 guys that caught shrapnel out of the 5 or 6 of them was standing there. Okay? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why? I was there. What happened? Why didn't I get anything? And the fact that we went down that village the next day, if I'd have went down there that night for an ambush, I wouldn't be here talking about it because I'm sure we'd have been killed. They did, before we even got to the village, they'd opened up and cut us down like mulberry trees or something. That was something that was unbelievable that it happened like that. Operation Texas, those guys that I know are right over here in the same area, and they're getting killed, and we're not even getting the guy wounded. What's the story on that? That bothers me to this day, why that happened, and I didn't catch anything. And like I'm saying, the authority figure thing bothers me too, because I've had that in the back of my mind all my life after that. Just, you know, you were in charge, but they go out on an operation. I don't know if you know about the military, how it stands it. They're expecting to have X amount of casualties. They know, well, we're going to have this amount of, our side's going to have this amount of casualties. And you're a number, you're not even a name, you're just a number when you go out on it. And they're back in the back and have a big operation, and they get 5 more medals put on their chest because of what they did with their authority, but they didn't do anything except set it up and use their brain. What else?
Yeah, that's it's pretty hard to swallow.
That is.
So you get past Vietnam.
Oh, you missed the next good part of it.
What's that?
After all that had taken place, they sent I had to go out on a one day search and destroy mission with one squad. It's like 13 guys, okay? And we had I don't know if you difference between Prick 10 and Prick 6 and all that stuff, radios. Prick 6 is a little handheld radio. You used to see them in World War II and stuff, like a little hand thing. Prick 10 is the little one the guy's always carrying on his back, okay? What's on this one day squad ambush, or not ambush, search and destroy mission. And we're walking along, and all at once a dust flies up in between 3 of us. It's from somewhere, they're shooting at us. And nobody got hit. I had a guy that had just come back after being shot, and he freaked. He was a corporal, and he freaked out on me. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna call for a medevac and get him out of here. Well, instead of them sending me out a helicopter to get this guy out, they sent a 3-man fire team with no communications, right? This poor 3-man fire team runs into an ambush, and one of them gets killed. One stays out there with the body, and the other one comes back to let them know what happened. Well, we stopped, to wait on them, per se. And we were just standing around like in a line, spread out. Because there's always just spread out. One round will get you all. It's always the whole main thing on the end. And a big thing of dust just flew up behind us. Oh, what the hell was that? We didn't think anything about it until we heard plop. See, because the VC could walk around and carry their mortars on their shoulders and set it up here and throw around it and then move. Okay. Well, you can hear the plop of it coming out the chute. So we were here, we went up to a foliage and a line right here, like a little creek, and we got down behind that and stayed there for a few minutes. And we're thinking, okay, they're going to fire upon us here. And over here is this random villages of Fuli 1, Fuli 2, and Fuli 3 is what they were called. And they were notorious for having VC in during the nighttime after we went through the daytime and swept it. So, squad leader was the corporal was a black. Okay, we're going in the village. Let's go. Let's do a sweep. So, spread out like this. He walks up and there's a hut all by itself. We started getting rounds from inside the village, which is no problem. We knew they were going to be there. He walked up to the hut and he took an old man and old lady who, God knows how old they were, I had no idea, shot both of them with 45 and fragged the hut with a grenade and blew it up. Oh, gee, that's a smart thing to do. You're getting shot at from here. You're getting mortared from over here. Might as well tell them exactly where we're at, you know? So we go on a sweep and we start to go in the village, and I hear corpsing up. Over here is a guy bigger than I am now, and he got shot in the leg. It wasn't, you know, it was a through and through wound, so I bandaged him up and I started getting back over here where I was at. Well, in the meantime, when I'm going, the squad leader gets shot right through the arm, right here. So I said, okay, and I bandaged him up. And while I'm bandaging him up, we're both sitting kind of like this, laying against a big bale of hay, okay? And the radio man's over here. And this corporal, after I'd already given him a shot of morphine for his pain, gets a big zing right across the forehead. Luckily it didn't go back here, just a zing right across his forehead. There's another thing. Why did he get that and I'm right next to him and I didn't get shit? So I'm worried about this. So I got this poor corporal over here, the one that went bananas on him, and I got the corporal, the squad leader, that's shot, and I got another lance corporal over here shot, and we're still getting shot at. What are we going to do? Well, naturally, I'm smart enough to know that, well, I got 3 guys, I got to get them out. I got to get them out because nobody else want to be in charge of nothing. Because I was the highest ranking non-commissioned officer out there. So I just got a hold of the radio and I called for a medevac. And I love this, this is the best part. I took the corporal's M79 grenade launcher. You ever seen one of those? Mm-hmm. Looks like a sawed-off shotgun. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, you use one big round, stick it in the back, plop it. So I'm shooting the village with this, waiting on the medevac to come out, and I'm trying to keep in contact with them and try to make sure I ain't got nobody else wounded on the line, because like I only had a squad and we're spread out, and then come to find out one of the guys that had already gone in the village by himself. Nobody knew where he was at. So they called and said, where are you at? And I'm smart enough to know that when it's my job, I throw out a smoke grenade, but it's red because you know it's hostile landing. The chopper come in, probably took a few rounds, and I got these 3 people out because we have a Huey that's the gunboat. While the medevac's coming in, they're there and they can, you know. So we get them out, and they're calling back from the CP about where we're at, and we're telling them, and we said, well, we're kind of like pinned down here by the Fulis, and I've medevac 3 out. So we're just gonna sit here in a 360 area and rather than going in the village and wait for you to come out. So they sent another squad out. We got another firefight with some BC somewhere on the way out, but no injuries. And in the meantime, the guy that was in the village comes strolling out by himself, like, where you been? And come to find out, he ended up with heat exhaustion. He wasn't there. The heat had got to him really bad. And the other squad come out, and we all went back to the village, or back to the command post. And we get back there and come to find out, the one kid that was on the 3-man squad fire team that went out, they got killed, went to the buddy system with this guy that I got that's got heat exhaustion. And he found that out because his body was still out there. And he found that out, and he picked his rifle up, and he's going out and bringing back by himself. Well, besides myself and a couple of the other guys had a curtailing and getting settled down, stuff like that. So they actually sent another squad out to retrieve that body that night. And they got in a firefight, so they called in some artillery and blew up part of the village they were in. And you could hear secondary explosions from the VC would stick mortars and stuff in the tops of the hutches. And they brought him back. He was only 18 years old. And it's things like that you just never understand. Never understand that. And then my worst nightmare was, which I still am guilty of not doing my job over there. I had a chief petty officer who I was stationed with in Pensacola, and I ran into him fluke-wise, and he was back at the regimental aid station. You know, you got a platoon, you got a squad, you got a platoon, you got a company, you got a battalion, you got a regiment. All right? He was back at the regimental aid station, and 2 weeks after I run into him, I was transferred out of the company back to the regimental aid station, which was like a security area, like you were, you know. You had hot food 3 times a day and showers and all this stuff. And there was one night I was sitting in the aid station. I got a call about a guy shot himself in the head. And I went over to the tent he was in, and kind of not knowing exactly what I should do and what I tried to do and it didn't get done, and I had to call back to get the doctor and the other corpsman over there to help with the whole situation of bandaging this guy up. And the doctor actually started a trach on him. They cut him open here, and they said, well, what are we going to use? So then they cut a stethoscope tube apart and put it down there, started a trach on him. They met him up to Da Nang. And if I lost my 45 that night. Because even though if you're not out, if you're in a secured area, you still have to carry a weapon, okay? And I don't know what happened to it. I lost a 45. But if I would have called the doctor the minute I got over there with this kid, I still don't know to this day if he survived shooting himself in the head. The young Marine that shot himself in the head in the barracks per se, their tents. And that bothers me to this day too, that I didn't do the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, that's... How do you know? Yeah, that's really tough.
You get excited over stuff like that, you know.
Sure. Well, how old were you?
19.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. How old were you when the first time you got shot at?
19, because I turned 19 on the way over there in Vietnam. I turned 19 aboard that ship on the way over there. I was 19 my whole tour, except for the last month, and then I turned 20.
See, I'm 34 years old. I've never had to make any of those decisions that you had to make. I've never once had to make any of those decisions. There's absolutely no way I could tell you whether you made right or wrong decisions. And there's nobody else out there that could say in that circumstance or any other circumstance that you made a right or wrong decision. That's just incredible. What was it like coming back home from Vietnam?
Believe it or not, I came home in December of 1966 and flew to Okinawa and flew to El Toro Air Base in LA and went to the LA airport. I didn't have a bit of problems. Back then we didn't have all that shouting and, you know, Vietnam veterans against the war and protesting and all this other stuff and just getting spit on was early. The spit on stuff probably came in after 1967, after the My Lai massacre, I think, the baby killers that they started calling us. And, you know, that wasn't an instance, you know. They didn't do that 24/7. The VC were worse than we were. Well, we'd get in a firefight, and to the point that, you know, you shot a couple and killed them, and you wanted to go out and get the bodies. The VC would, at times, they would lay, if they weren't dead, they would lay live bodies or dead bodies on top of live ones so they didn't listen to live ones scream. I seen the Arvon, which we were on an operation, and a personnel carrier, small pickup truck with a canvas thing on the back of it, had ran over a bridge and over a landmine. And the driver was just, he was a mess. They took his left foot like this and bent it over like this, along, and then wrapped his leg up like that. There was nothing but a piece of skin holding it. I'd have cut it off and forgot about it. He wasn't going to get fixed. They bent it over like that and wrapped it up, waiting for evacuation.
When did you get out?
December 1967.
What did you do after you got out?
Well, first thing I did, I actually, believe it or not, I joined the VFW. And then I went to work at Good Sam Hospital, an emergency room. And that was good and bad. The things that I did my last year in the service down at Little Creek, I was told only maybe 4 corpsmen in the Beachmasters. 2 of them were always on deployment. They had 1 med and 1 Caribbean cruise twice a year. So you always had 2 corpsmen deployed. But at night, every 4th night, we had to go to the dispensary. And that's when you worked on civilians at night. When Mom would bring the boys in that fell and scraped their leg or cut their chin or were really sick and might have had pneumonia, and you had to determine what the heck was wrong with them, let the doctor look at them if they had to go to the hospital and stuff like that. We had to get out the ambulance, take to the hospital or stuff like that. But there were things like Mom would bring the little kid in and he fell and bust his chin open. And the doctor would walk in and say, "Hey, I want you to use 4-0 silk and 1% lidocaine, or just put the kid in a papoose." Which is, you know, just like Indians used to carry their kids all wrapped up. When this little papoose thing had the kids, they couldn't move. So he didn't give them any shots to numb the pain because it was just as bad trying to numb it, and you just sew it up without any actual number. You had to do that. And then when you got done, the doctor come in and look, oh, good job, or, you know. And when I went to work at the hospital, and nurses looking over my shoulder, wanting to know if I knew how to take somebody's temperature or their blood pressure. And it was demeaning because a nurse on a floor in a hospital could spend 30 years on a floor in a hospital and never, ever in that 30 years do what an Army medic or an Air Force medic or a Navy corpsman did in one tour in the service. Now, Navy corpsmen attach to Marines, because you are a corpsman first and then you become a Marine when you go FML. That's what this is. They're carrying 120-pound packs in Afghanistan and Iraq. That's all medical care.
Jeez.
It's as big as the back of this chair. Because I've been down to the Sergeant Major's reunion down in Quantico, and I've seen the gear that they carry, and you could die, and they could bring you back to life, or they send you on an ambulance or in a helicopter, whatever. They got that much equipment.
Wow.
And they are so well trained now. There's so much the advancement and stuff. You know, us, it was like, here's a guy got shot in the arm, put some stuff on it, bandage it up, get medevac. These guys now, bandage it up. The bandages have coagulating chemicals in the bandage itself. It stops the bleeding. They can start the IV, hang it up. They got intravenous fluid going in them right there in the field. We never had that. We never had anything like that.
Wow. What, so now, currently, what do you, you said you joined the VFW, you're currently in the VFW now.
Oh yeah, I have been since 1967.
That's
almost
great.
50 years.
What other organizations are you involved in?
Everything. I belong to the VFW. I used to belong to American Legion, quit. I belong to Disabled Veterans Association. I belong to Marine Corps League. I belong to the DAV. I belong to Vietnam Veterans Association. I belong to the Shriners. I'm a Mason and a Scottish Rite, and I joined this Milton Athletic Club, which is a little over 100 years old now. You're only a card-carrying member in so many of them, you can't do them all, you know. I'm a life member of every organization I belong to, except a Mason. I just paid off my life membership in the Shriners. So every organization I belong to, I'm a life member, except for as a Mason.
That's good. So this is going to the Library of Congress. A lot of people are going to be viewing this. Is there a message that you want to give to the future generations?
If you want to go into service right now, I'd say if I was going to be going into service, no matter which branch I would go, I would stay and make a career. If back then, if I'd have thought about it, what I thought about was if I had re-enlisted in 1967, I'd have been back to Vietnam within 6 months again. I've already been there once at that time. I didn't want to go back again. But if I was going to join the military now, I would stay in. I had a stepson who went in the military in 1991 in November. He did his 20 years. And I think he's trying to go back to college to get a degree so I can actually go back in and go back in as an officer and still carry that 20 years plus. He was a respiratory therapist in the Army. He had tough duty. Besides going to basic training at Fort Knox, he had 2 different schools down at Fort Sam Houston at what they call BAMC, which is Brooks Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Rest of his tour was at Tripper Hospital in Hawaii. 10 years. What a tough, tough job. But he did his 20. He's married and he got a daughter that just graduated from high school. He was a single father during his whole tour. He got engaged, they had a baby, she didn't want to be a mommy. He was a single father and raised a girl. Like I said, the military is a thing like being in jail, you know, 3 hots and a cot, as they say. You got 3 meals a day and you got someplace to sleep every night with a roof over your head.
Yeah.
You know, 90% of your military stuff, you're not in combat. You have a good job. Learn something when you go in. Learn a good skilled labor job. Let the United States government send you to school and get you an education and what you're thinking about now when you're still if you're still in high school. Go for it, because you know you come out and be skilled at anything. They can send you to school and be a doctor or a dentist. You know, whatever you want to do, but stay in the service. If you're going to join, stay in.
That's good. Is there anything, you know, we're closing here, so is there anything that you feel that you want to add to this?
I have regrets for things that I did or didn't do in Vietnam. I have, I'm looking at me, you wouldn't think it, but I'm 100% post-traumatic stress. You have the flare-ups with that. Way back when they called it shell shock in World War I or World War II or battle fatigue, depending. It was still the same. And war, there is no winners in war. There is no winners. There's casualties on both sides, and there's people that are really hurt when they lose a loved one on both sides, and so on and so forth. But I've been through 3 wives. That's a hell of a thing to say for a guy. Well, I'll be 70 years old in a couple of months, but hey, all of it wasn't my fault, but part of it was my background in Vietnam and my authority figure, and the biggest part of my PTSD is anger, and I regret I do, but for some reason I'm a person that I don't like to say I'm sorry if I did something wrong. Pride or whatever you want to call it, but when I think about it, that somebody does something wrong and they say I'm sorry, they know they shouldn't have done it in the first place. You can forgive them, but it's still the same. You know, if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have to say you're sorry. But that's my real problem, is I won't say I'm sorry, and that's my problem, and my anger issues. I can be as cool, calm, and collected, and people just rag me all they want, and I'll let it go. But then it just for one reason or another, somebody will say something that I don't like, and I get really verbal. I had problems with the physical problem, and thanks to the VA, I'm pretty well, as you could say, medicated. I'm not a dizzy person. The medication doesn't make me dumb and stupid and crazy and look like I'm on drugs, because it's not that effective. It's just a mood thing that calms me down and keeps me that way. Hopefully I'll live my life like that and not have any more problems with wives. They laugh at me and go, well, how long have you been married? I've been married 35 years. But to 4 different women. They get a joke out of that. But it's good and it's bad. I've ruined the life of my first wife and my second wife, my third wife. Their lives will never be the same because of what I did. And I can say I'm sorry for that now, but it's not going to help unless they're nice enough to forgive me for what I did while I was married the other 3 times. But I've got 2 children. I've got 4 grandchildren. I know biological grandchildren. I have, I got some adopted grandchildren, because the one lady that I hung around with before I was in service, and after I was in service, said I had a child by her, but after long extensive taking of a DNA test, she's not biologically my daughter, but I treat her as my daughter with my 3 grandchildren up there. They live in Columbus.
That's good.
But I'm a nice guy, and I'm forgiving. I am, and it's not, you know, I'm a millionaire, but if somebody needs something, I'll try and help if I can. My grandson is not my biological. I bought his mother and him a truck here earlier this year. It wasn't a large amount of money, but they do a lot of grass cutting and hauling of scrap, and we do scrapping all the time. So instead of using my truck all the time, now they have a truck they can use their own, or trailer. So
That's great.
I
Well,
love it, and like I said the other night when we went over to Willie's, it was you know, it's like watching the guys come back off of honor flight to get butterflies.
yeah.
And that was great over at Willie's the other night. We had him in tears as soon as we walked in.
It's a great service that you guys do.
Oh, it was awesome. It really was. And his daughter and his wife said, "Now I'm going to tell you one thing. You all coming back over here because we're going to have a big dinner, and I'm going to fix it." Yep.
Well, Bill, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate what you're doing.
And welcome home, man.
It's been long.